Welcome to the Changing Stage Show on Enter Talk. My name is Florentino, and we are here today to talk about what's going on in this world. A little bit of COVID news, but mostly about what's going on in the music industry and what we have to look forward to. We've got an amazing guest here. We have a good friend. This man is a dynamo. He's been in the business for many years. He's produced numerous Grammy-winning albums, platinum, gold, you name it. Worked with tremendous artists. I'd like to go ahead and bring in Jeffrey Weber here, and we will have you tell a little bit about yourself, Jeffrey.
Wow, thanks so much, Tino. I'm so happy and thrilled to be included in this. This is a wonderful platform for me to let everybody know my jaded perspective, and I appreciate the opportunity. I've been making music for over 40 years. I am a music producer. I am a record label. I produce large multi-day music festivals, and I am an author. I have 3 books out, or 2 books out right now, a new one coming out in a few months called You Sound Amazing, Every Single Lie of the Music Business. As you can imagine, it's a humor book, and everyone who loves music is sure to enjoy it or hate it. I'm good either way. Anyway, we love making music. We do music kind of differently in that I like to capture a performance rather than manufacture it. So my career is based on the fact that I have everyone in the same room at the same time, real musicians playing real music in real time. And there's something that's amazing about that you can't duplicate at home, and it's kind of one of the byproducts of what we're going to talk about later today. So I appreciate the opportunity, and let's go.
Well, that's kind of crazy talk, being in the same room. Nowadays, we are not necessarily in that environment, and we're going to definitely get into that here. So, we got a chance to talk a little bit at the Summer NAMM this year. And, with that said, we were talking about where things were at that time. Give me a little bit of your insight on where the industry was going, because it was already in a dynamic change, and now we're in spirals. In my opinion, at this point, we're all trying to figure out how this music industry can be, saved, if you will. So, give me your thoughts on that, Jeffrey.
All right. Well, why don't I divide them prior to the pandemic and what's happening now? I think that prior to the pandemic, we were in a state of turmoil. And of course, anytime there's turmoil in any business, there's tremendous opportunity. So contrary to popular belief, I always felt that when the industry was swirling around, not really knowing which direction to go, that's the time when we should really jump in with both feet. And I'll tell you why. It's a lot of things have changed for us in the music business over the last few years. And it used to be that everyone wanted to be on a major label because that was the way that you used to get your music distributed to the record stores. Now, with the advent of a lot of the digital technology that we have, we can get our music to anyone on the planet within 36 hours. So that, while it used to be the war, isn't the war now. What's happening now, in my opinion, is that the industry is fractionalized. By that I mean that there's no super core audience, so that you'll see an album or a project or a stream selling, the equivalent of 5 or 10 million units. The industry isn't built that way anymore. It's become more of a singles business than an album business, and I think that has presented a whole new set of challenges and opportunities. The idea for us as creators, our goal is to find our audience. That's really our quest, because once we do find our audience, then we know that they're going to be loyal and they'll really take care of us. And big question, of course, is, how do we find our audience? And that is a small question amongst a larger question, which actually has two words. What now? Okay, so I've recorded a record. What now? Okay, so I've written a song. What now? Okay, what now? And that's what everybody seems to be asking. What now? And so we as record producers, at least I, have taken on the job of answering the what now questions. I, in addition to recording either live tracks with no mixing, editing, or overdubbing, or live to multi-track with the option for the lead vocalist to fix, replace, or repair a vocal, we stay with that artist throughout the process and afterwards, assisting them in finding their audience. Now, along the way, we have to sell music. And of course, we sell it in any way we can. So I've developed a post-recording strategy that provides kind of achievable milestones for artists to sell music. And what is the most important way that we can sell music? It's the activation of the peer-to-peer recommendation engine. The reason why I say that is that the gatekeepers that we used to have, radio, magazines, they don't work for us anymore because we know that they're simply bought and paid for. I'm sure that everybody in the record business will agree with me that hits are simply purchased. Okay? What you hear on terrestrial radio simply has been bought. That time has been bought. Actually, years and years ago, a little cottage industry was created by independent radio promotion people who would every week go to specific radio stations and try to get what is known as an ad, where that station added the song that radio promo guy was pitching that day. Now, those pitches weren't always, hey, listen to this record, it's amazing, we're getting a lot of coverage on it. Those were simply bribes. We're going to pay you to play this record. They'll pay you either in women, drugs, money, combinations thereof. And it was a very, very lucrative business for the radio promo guys because they got paid every time there was an ad. And sometimes they would get paid about $600 for every ad. And if they were handling like 10 songs that week and they got ads on all 10 songs, they were making $6,000 a week. It's kind of a wild moment when you think about it.
Yeah, that is definitely the case.
So now we know that magazine ads are paid for, and it's just one of those things. So who are the new gatekeepers? The new gatekeepers are us. So if, let's say, Tino, you're talking to me and you're going to say, hey, listen, you need to check out so-and-so. Because we have similar tastes, we love similar styles of music, I'm going to take what you say as an insider, and I'll go to someplace like YouTube, a discovery engine, and I'm going to check that person out, okay? And so viral marketing is just one person with a big mouth telling another person with a bigger mouth. That's all viral marketing is. So when somebody says, hey, it went viral, that means somebody's doing some talking, okay? Yeah. So now that we've established a peer-to-peer recommendation engine, how do we activate it? Okay, so let me give you an example, and I'm going to use you as a rock star. Okay, now, I'm a huge fan of Tino, the rock star. Okay, I've been to your shows and I've bought your music, but we've never really met. And I'm at one of your shows, and after let's just say the fourth or fifth song, you stop and you say, hey, is Jeff Weber in the house? Jeff, are you here? And I'm like, what? Is he talking to me? And I raise my hand sheepishly, and you say, Jeff, I love making music. I love writing. I love recording. I love performing. I couldn't do it, though, if it wasn't for people like you, because you honor me by attending my shows, buying my music. Jeff, this song is for you. Now, I'm already a fan, and you're giving me a shout out. This is a moment for me, okay? Because what's happened, and you know this very well, that a true fan only wants two things: access and exclusivity. By recognizing me, you've given me access to you. And now you're giving me bragging rights because you've said to me, hey, listen, I'm going to come back to this same venue in 12 weeks. And if you can get 3 of the fellas to come with you, you'll come to my sound check, and we'll just be us together.
Yeah.
Now I have bragging rights, right? So no longer am I a friend on Facebook. I'm a soldier for you, Tino, because now I'm going to buy every single piece of music that you release, and I'm going to buy them in multiple copies so that I can give them to my friends because you've activated me. Now, you've also done something else very smart. You understand that having a gig by itself means nothing. But when you can connect it, using my connective tissue theory of maintaining relevance, when you can connect it to something else you're going to do that elevates your career only slightly, you win. So in this particular case, yes, you would be selling merchandise, and yes, you would be signing stuff, but you would also be collecting the data. So what do I mean? There's somebody in the audience that's getting the name and the email address of every single person in attendance. And why is that important? Because the next day, every single person in attendance is going to receive the following email from you. Dear Tom, dear Betty, dear Sue, dear Arnold, I'm really pissed. I'm pissed at myself because I knew that you attended my show last night, but I didn't take the time to meet you personally and tell you how critical to my success you are. As a matter of fact, the most important person in my band is the person who's listening. And buddy, that's you. I wonder if you have a toy hammer, because I'm coming back to the same club in about 12 weeks. And if you would forgive me enough to come back to that club at the end of the set, use that toy hammer, come down to the front of the stage and pound the crap out of the stage with that toy hammer until you get my attention, because there's nothing that I want to do more than shake your hand and tell you how valuable you are to me. Sincerely, Tino. I think that's a very powerful way to broaden your base, to get people to go, oh man, this guy is a human being. I've made a connection with members of my audience. Building that connection is how we sell music today.
Well, to look at that, though, this current situation that we're in, we have some key challenges right now with getting people into venues. I know that's been our biggest revenue driver, and that's kind of what we're talking. All these engagement pieces are amazing ideas. But for the next foreseeable 4 to 6 months, I could be wrong, but I think people are going to be a little skittish about trying to get out. Even when the quarantine is lifted, and even when we are at this next juncture, there's going to be some challenges there. What do you think of that? And do you have any solutions?
I actually think there's going to be 2 specific challenges. One, you've mentioned accurately, in that if the restrictions for gathering are released too soon, of course, people are not going to want to go out to places where large numbers congregate. They're still in fear of backlash or reinfection or things like that. But the most important thing I think that you're bringing up is the fact that even if the restrictions are concluded to the satisfaction of most people, they're not going to have the money to go out anyway until quite a few months later. They have to get their own lives together financially. They have to go back to work. A lot of people won't be able to go back to work. So we're looking at a kind of a long tail, I think, before people are actually going to enjoy music to the extent that they perhaps once did. And I know in my business, I'm seeing a lot of shows not even bothering with the rest of the year, but in the hopes of starting up again in 2021. I am very aggressively trying myself to get my clients into the studio in the latter part of the year so that we can actually have releases in the early part of next year so that we can take advantage of what I feel will be an urgent need to experience music as a consumer, okay? But I also think that as creators, musicians will have changed their stripes as well. Can I tell you what I mean by that?
Please do.
I think that before the pandemic occurred, a lot of people were buying gear and doing a lot of things in their homes. Okay, just send me the track and I'll add my part on it and send it back to you. Okay, I've got a full-fledged, I can do drum tracks, I can do all of these things in my house. I'm perfectly suited and equipped to do it. Well, in my mind, that's like being sentenced to jail. Okay, I don't ever think that music was meant to be a prefab in the way that there's prefab housing. I always felt that music was a collective ensemble of people responding to a very similar set of stimuli that can be changed and enhanced in real time. So I think that we have seen enough of a lot of the musicians gathering together in their homes and doing their songs and having, performances by a group of individuals from symphony orchestras to all of these other things. And I think we've noticed that, number one, it sounds horrible. Number two, mostly it looks horrible. And there's no attraction there on a two-dimensional image like on a screen. I think we've had our fill with that. I think there's a yearning for community. I think there's a yearning for musicians to get together and explore the emotional adventure of music in its purest form again. So I do believe there will be a rush on parts of the creators to make music the way I've always loved making music, live, in real time. Sometimes music wants to sit back on the beat or rush just a touch. Anything that's done in the computer is all about the math. There's no such thing as sitting back on the beat because the song feels like it should. It's just simply a question of beats per minute and, la-di-da. But I think that because we are sequestered, if you will, that all of a sudden people want to play with each other again. And I welcome that because it fits right into my, it's right up my alley. And so I'm hoping that happens because I think there'll be an explosion of emotion. I think there'll be an explosion of songs. I think there'll be an explosion of community. I think, I think people will get back out on the corners and sing doo-wop. Really, but, there's always hope.
Well, hey, I would love that because that's one of my favorite styles of music. And I'd like to say that, yeah, there's a lot of streaming going on. In fact, I think we were talking about it the other day that I seen Carole King on Facebook Live. That was crazy to me because that's just, it's amazing that a lot of these people that you would spend hundreds of dollars now to see in concert are out there doing it for free. And it's kind of an interesting time. And they're doing it with technology. And, I would have to say right now in this time of COVID, I'm actually doing all the production. So please, folks, forgive me for some of the little hiccups that are going on. I'm actually doing all the live switching and trying to be a host at the same time. So it's
you're doing a damn fine job. I'm for one clapping. Yes, get down with your bad self.
Sometimes you have to do it all. I'm here at the EnterTalk station all by myself. So it's pretty crazy. And, folks, if you see transitions and other fun stuff, just forgive me on this one. It's it's an interesting world that we have here. But with that said, all this streaming going on, and you hit the nail on the head. There's something about connectivity. There's interaction that is so amazing when you have it live that you just can't get that online. But do you think that there are some possibilities for people to start generating revenue? Because right now it's all free. Do you think that that's going to be the case with all these artists that are doing this for free?
Well, actually, you bring up a really good point. I was talking with somebody earlier about the fact that I don't think I've ever seen in my lifetime an entire planet of humanity doing the same things at the same time. And I am worried about the perceived value of music in the eyes of the consumers. What I would really love to see, if I only had the authority and the power and the trust of the people, is to say to everyone, now, Tino, don't laugh at me. For the next 4 days, this is while we're all in this pandemic, we're all, sequestered and home. For the next 4 days only now, there can be no music in your life. That means no singing, no humming. All clock radios will now revert to talk radio when they wake you up in the morning. There's no such thing as elevator music. That could be a bad or good thing. You can't hum in the shower. You can't listen to anything. You can't create anything. Can't write anything. You can't talk about music with anyone just for 4 days. It is my humble opinion that after 4 days, you will come to revere music so much that you will understand that it is not just part of the fabric of your body, but it actually is part of the blood in your veins. It runs through your heart, through your body, as much as any other potential part of emotion that gives you pleasure constantly and repeatedly, and you got to pay for it. Okay, so imagine now when you go into a building, you will think elevator music is amazing. I mean, I know, okay, so it's a big stretch, but still, the notion of music as a commodity, just like any other commodity, should happen.
So one of the things I think personally that we're going to be getting back to, which is how music was paid for back in the days of Mozart and Beethoven, is some type of patrons. And, basically the nobles of that time, they would invest in these artists to make these, incredible works of art. And then at that particular point, they would say, hey, Mozart's my boy. His track is better than yours, so I've got a little bit more elevation in society. Obviously, that's not going to happen. I don't think at this particular point, but I think that we're going to see that with corporations and sponsorships. As an industry before, we kind of shunned away from that. From everything that I gathered before. Don't sell out to the man. That's not cool. All these things that we, you and I grew up in, the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and that was part of the notion. But I think it's changing now. What are your thoughts on generating revenue through sponsorship, especially like we're doing this live stream at this particular point? What's your thoughts on that?
I love the idea. You mentioned the noblemen in history are basically sponsoring music. I was just trying to think of who the noblemen are of today. I'm having a tough time figuring that out. But the idea that arts could thrive via sponsorship is what is exceedingly attractive to producers like myself who produce large-scale music events and also would love to share the talents, the many talented people that I have, that I know rather, that would love to get in the studio, that would love to perform, that would love to write songs, that would love all aspects of music, but can't do it because they're not signed to a major label, which of course, as you know, in my opinion, that would be the end of their career anyway. but as an independent artist, generally don't have the funding to create these pieces. And I feel that if a corporation or something got in and was able to create a budget for something like this, we can do it in a financially responsible manner so that many of these talented people can have visibility. And again, it's not getting the word out. That's easy. It's getting the people to pay attention. That's the war. And yes, we're using social media to a certain extent, but I really do believe at the end of the day, it's public performance that is actually going to create the union between the artist and the consumer so that there is a conversion to payment. And I don't think social media is actually always the way to go. I mean, a friend on Facebook is not activated. There's nothing there. It doesn't translate to any type of ongoing relationship. So I want those engagements. I want to see more of that. And I think public performance is the way to do it. And I think that, large corporations sponsoring a concert series in the lobbies of their buildings, recording them, filming them, making them available, I think it can go from there. But in answer to your question, I'm sorry I'm being long-winded, is yes. That's my opinion. I really do believe that forward-thinking corporations will really get behind some of these artists. And look, a lot of corporations have been sponsoring shows, public performances forever. Now, my personal take on this is for my upcoming festivals, I'm seeking next generation sponsors. What do I mean by that? I'm seeking to have educational components built into a show. For example, I would like to see one of my next show is going to feature a cryptocurrency and Bitcoin education and activation tent. My shows are also going to feature a very heavy cannabis and CBD education and enlightenment and opportunity for purchase. Looking for next generation sponsors that understand where their audiences are coming from, not just necessarily lifestyle sponsors. Yes, we would love to have automobiles. Yes, we would have large soft drinks like Coke or Pepsi or whatever it is, but those come with heavy restrictions and, a lot of things. Oftentimes, those heavy-duty sponsors want to know if things can be scaled. So whatever we're doing, can we scale it to multiple cities, multiple opportunities? So we have to take that into consideration. Any future corporation is going to want to know how can I get what we're doing to the largest number of eyeballs that we possibly can get. Therefore, there is justification for their sponsorship.
Well, I think, those are amazing ideas that we need to explore for sure. And this is going to be a first in many series. I'm going to close this one off right now, and I really, really thank you for joining us, Jeff. We are going to be coming back with some more topics. In fact, we want everyone to let us know what you want to know about the music industry, and we're going to be bringing on other experts for this series. So this is Florentino closing out for the Changing Stage show. Big shout out to our sponsor, Arturia, and also obviously in the big logo up at the top here with Artesia. We really thank you folks for always supporting us. You're listening to me on a Artesia microphone and also a Artesia breakout module or a audio breakout box. So we appreciate your time. Thank you very much, Jeffrey. And we really, if you got a few more last words, let us know.
I guess I'm filled with hope about our business because, as we've talked about in the future, there is no doubt in my mind that people will adore music for as long as they're alive. People would create music for as long as they're alive. People will listen to music as long as they're alive. So no matter what happens to our society, no matter what happens to our leadership, no matter what happens to our condition, I'm confident and hopeful that the music will be with us, and all we have to do is find it, love it, engage, and the return will be fantastic.
Well, thank you, Jeffrey, again for coming out and supporting us on this wonderful show that we're doing to, help raise awareness on what can be done in the music industry post-COVID. Where do we go from here? And we thank you for joining us, and we'll be back again sometime in the near future with the next episode.
Yeah.